For those of you that have been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I've been covering this story about the house that was built in Glacier National Park and the lawsuits and everything that's going on with it. Well, we had a huge update this week, and in this video I'll tell you all about it.
All right, so I climbed all the way up this mountain to give you a better view of Montana. So the least you can do is subscribe to our channel. And when you do, don't forget to hit the little bell and you'll be notified every time we make a new video about Montana.
So let's start at the beginning. So many of you that have visited Glacier Park before may not realize this, but there are private lots that exist within the park boundaries that were there since before Glacier Park was a park. Glacier Park became a park in 1910, and these lots that are there, that are private, were there before 1910. And that kind of brings us to the story today of a big issue between Montana, federal government, federal law, Montana law, and everything that goes with it. So as you can see behind me, this is Lake McDonald. And this is where on most of the lots exist on the west side, like right when you come in from West Glacier into the park, there's a little area you can see here called Apgar Village, and it sits right along the shores of Lake McDonald. And then Lake McDonald is pretty long, and at the far end of it, there's also some private lots too, just not as many as there are down at the west end. So anyway, these people, John and Stacy Ambler, bought this piece of property, and it is right near the Apgar Village, kind of right behind it. And the property sat right on the stream that comes out of Lake McDonald, McDonald Creek it's called. So this stream is just a beautiful, like everything in the park, just a beautiful stream that runs out of Lake McDonald and it eventually dumps down into the middle fork of the Flathead River. But there's been, it's just been kind of wilderness. There are some places near Apgar Village that also the property borders the stream, but the homes and there's even a hotel back in there are kind of up in the woods, and they don't touch. You can't really even see them from the stream. They're back far enough. So anyway, a few years ago, John and Stacy Ambler bought this property and decided to build, and they built this house that you can see here that's caused all this uproar. It's right along the creek, and according to Montana state law, it's way too close to the creek. There's a law that started in 1976 called the Streambed Act, and it was started in Montana, and it doesn't allow you to build, this close to the edge of a stream, mainly for environmental purposes and, basically for the safety of homes as well. If you get too close, if you get a flood, it's probably going to wash down the stream, which isn't good for anybody. But anyway, this law has been in effect in Montana since 1976. When the Amblers built their house, they apparently called Flathead County, and Flathead County said, yeah, because it's in the park, we don't deal with anything in the park. You have to call the park. So then I guess they called the park, and the park said, yep, you can hook up to the sewer and water lines and hook up electricity and everything. But because these lots have been here for so long, and obviously this is the first place I can even remember that was ever built on. I mean, some people will update their cabins and do a little remodeling, but I don't ever remember anybody actually building on a lot, probably because most of them are gone and already built upon. But anyway, they called the park and got permission, they thought, to do this. And then once it started being built, the neighbors saw this house going in so close to the creek, and they called Flathead County and claimed that this was a violation of the Streambed Act, or the 310 law it's called. So the neighbors then got a hold of the Flathead Conservation District, which upholds and enforces the Streambed Act. And they went out and looked and said, yep, they cut into the stream bed. This house is not, you can't do this. And they did it obviously without permission from the county. But according to them, they called the county, and the county said, we don't deal with anything in the park. So that was kind of a mess. Then the Flathead Conservation gave them a cease and desist order, and they studied it a little more, and then they decided you have to tear down the house and put everything back to the way it was before you started building. Well, that's when all the lawyers got called. It's been going on for a while, but just last week, a judge finally ruled on it, and she ruled that because back in 1910, when Glacier Park became a park, there was a question of, okay, well, what do we do with all these private lots that are now within the park? Well, the state of Montana back in 1910 said, you do what you want. We're giving all of the rights, everything over to you, the federal government, to do your own thing. And Montana laws and everything are not going to apply to these lots that are in the park. The only thing that's going to apply now is, funny enough, they want to collect local taxes from these lots. So everything else is up to the federal government to enforce or make their own laws or whatever. Well, back to the Streambed Act, that was started in 1976, clearly long after 1910. Anything before 1910, any laws apply, but anything after 1910, it's up to the park. Well, Montana passed that Streambed Act in 1976, so the Amblers claimed that, sorry, we don't have to worry about this because we're in the park, and they didn't enforce it. Clearly, a loophole has been found because the judge ruled in favor of the Amblers, and they said the county does not have the right to make them tear down the house, and the house can stay. So this brings up the next question of morality. What do you do? I mean, now that a loophole's been found, do we take full advantage of this loophole and start building all kinds of stuff right along the rivers and doing whatever we want in the park on these private lots? So as you can imagine, there's a lot of people that are very irritated by this decision. In fact, on Facebook, the Flathead Beacon, where this article came out, they posted a copy of this article and then everybody comments under it. Well, a day after they posted this article, there were 184 comments already, and I went through all of them and counted. And of those 184 comments, there were only 6 people that agreed with the judge and were happy about the decision. And one of the things I found at the very end of the article that was in one of the papers here locally, it says, the Conservation District and Friends of Montana Streams and Rivers, who were interveners in the case, also claimed that the Amblers' home violated the National Environmental Policy Act, which violates a federal statute providing that no permit, license, lease, or other authorization for the erection and maintenance of summer homes or cottages within Glacier Park shall be granted. So I guess that's another law. This particular judge said that was out of the scope of this case. All she was ruling on was, does the county have the right to enforce the streambed law and make them tear down the house? And she said no. It sounds like this case is probably not over, and it's going to continue on for a while because now there's another legal issue that has been found by these different groups around here. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out, and I'm sure this will continue on for some time. They can still appeal this current judgment. The judge made the ruling based on another case that happened back in the 60s, I believe. Same kind of thing where they were claiming, the people back then, it was a different deal. I think it was with water rights, that, the state doesn't have jurisdiction anymore. And that judge agreed and said, no, they don't, because it's in the park and they're controlled by the federal government. The interesting thing, though, is it's weird to me that you can, because of this loophole now, you can build right on top of a stream without any kind of laws for this, the Streambed Act type of laws. You can do that in Glacier Park, which is there to keep, to preserve the environment and show off the beauty of the area. But if they would have built that house a quarter mile to the west, just outside the park, they wouldn't have been allowed to do that. So kind of a weird little loophole, and it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. So stay tuned.
Thank you for watching our video. Please call, text, or email for more information, and don't forget to watch our other videos about Montana.